Hello, and welcome to How to Play D&D, the Explainer podcast where one experienced dungeon master and one failed scriptwriter discuss D&D topics. My name is Lewis McCaffery, and my incredibly inadequate pod partner is Connor Kinsey.
Shalom.
Hello.
Shalom,
That's me. How are you, Connor? How's life?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm alright. I'm sure people will notice that we are wearing clothes that we've worn.
We're just wearing clothes.
Which is rare. You all
rare.
know that. We're usually in a Grinch mask and nothing else.
I'm not even going to say anything to that. I swear it's not a gimp mask.
No, I'm not hosting this episode.
No.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I've written this episode as if I would host it.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see Lewis read what he's not pre-read.
I've no idea
and he's gonna be crying.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I hope. I can't remember if it's funny or not.
Probably not, let's be honest. Especially
Well,
not coming from these lips, it will not be funny.
Hey, those lips are pretty.
Where's HR?
If you're watching this, you are scarred.
I'm scarred and I'm sat right here.
Yeah.
The listeners don't have to sit a metre away from you. Right, so today, see if I can actually read this. So, today's episode is...
No.
No? Have I missed a bit?
I'm keeping all this in. Yeah, we haven't done all the let's get to it bit.
Oh, we haven't.
We haven't explained what the season is.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. So today's episode 3, I think, of season 4, which is all about DMing. It's all about helping new DMs and existing DMs just feel comfortable in their own skin and DM a decent, semi-decent campaign.
First time DMs, mostly though.
Mostly,
That's what the season's about.
Mainly because if any experienced dungeon master actually listened to this, they'd probably shoot us.
They would laugh and burn us at the stake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Anything else to talk about this before you...
What is the episode?
I don't. Oh, it's. Oh,
You're the one reading it.
I do know.
I'm keeping all of this in. This is a
That's
shit
all
show.
right. I'm trying to see. All right. Yeah. Okay. So today's episode is about DMing a homebrew campaign in D&D. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
God, this is horrible. Today's episode is on DMing a homebrew campaign for the first time. If you thought finding players was difficult, you should try writing 38 sessions in advance of your campaign only for a player to shortcut 18 of them with a single class-based spell because he prefers beating the DM and party rather than enjoying the adventure. I feel
there
like
we go. No spite there.
I know exactly who
Not personal.
You are calling out vicariously through me. I know.
And arguably, I think we have met someone who listened to the podcast before we met them. And they actually called out Morgan.
Oh,
they actually called out the shit player that we talk about. And they were like, oh, that Morgan guy. And I was like, whoa, you actually listened to us.
Yeah. That's how we knew it wasn't a scam or anything.
It was real. It was real.
Right. And I will read this exactly as you've written it.
Yes, please.
So, Lewis, what have you written, man?
Hello.
I've injected... What's this say? I've injected 1,000 ladybirds into my bloodstream because I want to feel again. I'm
going to read it because he's laughing too much. Lewis, I've injected 1,000 ladybirds into my bloodstream because I want to feel again. What am I doing?
You need to answer this because this is one you've written.
What do I need to feel? Why do I need to feel, I suppose? It's instantly got personal.
Yeah.
I forgot, because I wrote this for me to read, and then I gave it to you, and I'm like, shit. I just wanted to feel... I wanted to know what an inside tickle feels like. That's my answer.
Okay, you wanted to know how it feels to be felt.
Yes, I want to know what it feels like to feel something inside me. There's an awkward silence.
I can tell you right now how that feels.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, so question time, I think. Hello. So, first time DMers have decided to run a homebrew campaign. Do we think that's a great idea, and why?
Yes. I think it depends on what kind of person you are for learning.
Okay.
So, me, I'm very hands-on. Me writing a session means I will memorize the session. If I read it, I won't remember it. I will probably reread the same line 3 times, and then that's ruining the pace of what we're trying to get to, the experience. So to me, I've only ever homebrewed.
Yeah.
Even the first session I ran that was the Wild Sheep Chase, which is, I can't remember the person who created it, but it's a great little starter. Even that I homebrewed.
Yeah, you added a lot of elements.
Different, and I used that as a structure because I had no idea how a D&D structure worked. But yeah, I find that easier, and I think if from the beginning your idea is homebrew, that's probably because your mind works that way.
Yeah, it's definitely if you're gonna. I do agree. Even for me, it's easier if you create something and you think of that yourself. That's easier to remember than something you've just read. Yeah,
it's not like an elitism of like, I'm really creative. It's that my mind is better. I'm better at drawing than I am maths, and it's easier if I kind of see it from the beginning, and see it through. Then,
to be fair, even coming from the opposite side, like because obviously my mind better than maths than drawing kind of thing. But I do agree, like even if I'm for the Curse of Strahd and the Phandelver, they're pre-written. But what I would always do is rewrite it in a separate notes page and read off that rather.
Yeah.
So it's not creating, but I do. Yeah, I completely get what you mean. If you're going to actually create and write something, it's a lot more easier to remember than just reading it.
Yeah, there are different ways of. That's literally the only reason I homebrewed. Yeah, it's not out of like I can do this better or. That's just
what you've become.
Yeah, I've just become a monster.
You've become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Literally, yeah.
No, I think that covers that nicely. So, question 2. What can DMs do to make sure players are prepared for their session?
Yeah, I think, especially first-time DMers, it's less likely that they know what the players have already played before.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you play like Dragons of I Spy Peak.
Yep.
Yes, that was a mouthful. Then they've probably already played that, and so you kind of going into that setting and not knowing that they have, as an example, like a pre-written piece. You're kind of catching up with them. Yeah. So one, you want to make sure that they've, especially for a homebrew, that means they don't have any knowledge of this, but they probably do have knowledge of how D&D works. And so homebrew, really, you kind of need to make sure you back up yourself with a bit of rules knowledge, a bit of understanding of how a structure works, at least understand the guidelines of a pre-written campaign to know how you should work it, because people are probably wired in that way already.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what they need to prep with, knowing that the players understand what they're getting into.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And that can be anything, kind of. It can be setting, the time, or anything. Yeah. Like, even what kind of DM style, even if you are new, and you can figure out the type of DM style you are. But if you have an idea, like, for example, if you know a few of the rules and you might say, I don't like this. Or, for example, I always say the death save rules, I run it differently. So if I homebrew one, I'll let everyone know beforehand that rule's different.
Even that you homebrew that different to what I homebrew it.
Yeah.
So, and I've learnt from you. So it really is like what you think works for the campaign you're running. Yeah. I think I might completely change that for a different type of setting.
Exactly.
And I guess the one thing we are missing, which I think a lot of people who are first-time DMers would want to take into account, is you're trying to please people to a point. So even ignoring the campaign itself, maybe the content of it. So maybe there's stuff in there that might be too dark, like the content itself might be a bit much for certain people, or not enough. They might go, that's just a bit too like family friendly, or it's a bit too childish, and that they're all just different acquired tastes. So that's also nice to let someone know in advance. If you say I'm playing Dragonlance, people probably know, they might not have played it, but they get Dragon.
They get an idea.
They understand. So already, you don't need to prep them so much.
Yeah, there's no right way to play it. There's no right setting with D&D, but obviously everyone has different preferences. So
just giving people a heads up of what to expect and the tone they're getting into, really.
Yeah. Okay. Should DMs focus on player backstories more in a homebrew world rather than in a pre-written module?
Yeah, I think so, because I've not seen any module, and I've read quite a few of the modules, because we've got quite a few, just not ran them. But they literally cover the sessions. Yeah. They get you from A to B, and so arguably you probably need to do more backstory work prepping in a pre-written piece than a homebrew. But because it's homebrew, you're already creating things, you're more likely to think of talking.
It's a lot easier
character.
to slip in backstory things. Like if you're creating a quest where, like, let's say Fandelver, you've got the quest to escort the wagon. Then you've got to think, all right, how can I actually add someone's backstory in this?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're creating a brand new quest, you can just create it and be like, I'm actually just going to create this one quest that links, and it's for that character.
And for me, how my mind works, I am not sitting there going, how do I fit Io's character into what I'm doing? I'm naturally writing something, and I go, that really works with his character, or I've written something and I go, oh, that works, and I'm not chasing it on purpose, because it's not for one person, it's for everyone.
Exactly.
But if there's a moment where you can add a bit of like a branding of like a cult that one person's following, that makes complete sense to me, because I'm already creating the world as I go, whereas pre-written, I'm struggling to do that. I've got to fit it into the world that exists.
Exactly. And I think one of the good things that, especially for new DMs, if you're basing DMing off what you've seen from Critical Role, Matt Mercer, people like that, then that's all well and good. We've said before that you cannot expect to be that good or have a DM that good. Yeah. But one of the good things that is in every one of their campaigns, and any successful campaign, is enough about player backstories and their stories. It's like, for example, if we go to Baldur's Gate again, reference that. So if you take all of the companions you can get through that, if you take all of their stories out, the campaign itself would probably be very basic, very quick.
Yeah.
But because you've got backstories, you've got things that you can explore along the way, the main quest doesn't actually... That could literally make up 50% of your campaign.
Yeah.
The other 50% is all the character-related quests and things like that, and that's what makes a brilliant campaign.
Yeah, I mean, what creates a world, yes, arguably it's the landscape and at least a kind of story, but it's the people, right? So that makes sense to that. And
that's what will be the most memorable, I think, for that character as well.
Definitely.
Okay. Should players make their own enemies or use existing creatures?
I think existing creatures.
Okay.
I think existing creatures, you're a first-time DM, you've got a lot to deal with. Stat blocks, challenge ratings, how combat works is all new to you.
Yep.
So let's start. For my campaign, it's my first, and it's a homebrew. I created characters, I created enemies, and I'm still changing them as I go, because the more I've learned, the more I realised that I was really just like assumed I could do it, and players level up and players gain things or work a different way to what you think. So I think sticking with creatures and then going, right, I already know that by next week they'll probably be too good for this orc, so I'll go to an orc chief or orc captain. That's the point of the manual being there. That's the point of these guidelines to work with.
Yeah,
save yourself some trouble.
I do completely agree with that, especially because D&D has that many creatures you could use. You can always spice it up by, you don't want to use goblins, use orcs. You don't want to use orcs, use bandits or blights or treants or whatever you can do. Yeah. There's always ways to spice it up. So
we will talk about enemies as in a future episode in this season. But just briefly, so we don't make the whole topic. But even for mine, I might have a couple of things that like a creature has that's not in a regular creature stat block. It will be reskinned though, so it will be something that seems cool. I've got a miniature. Usually, I buy the miniatures in advance and I create a stat block or find a stat block that exists and match it. But I'm reskinning it to look like that, and I think it really is up to you how you go about it. But as a first-time player or DM, I really recommend just using what's already there.
Exactly, yeah. Why make it more difficult?
Definitely.
Okay, do DMs need to bring articles, maps, items from the module that they're creating or the homebrew world?
No, I mean, like I said, I fully went to town.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't even use miniatures.
No,
we'll have combat, and I'm just getting you guys to roll it. I think it really depends on the situation. Does this combat, change the outcome of anything? Unless you die, no. So it happens to exist because there will be combat in this setting, but only when there are big moments that have impact on what's going on will I get the board out. And they'll and once again, it's not set pieces. It is literally your miniatures versus my miniatures, and there might be some kind of way of going about in a bit of a drawing, but that's it. So I don't think you do. Once again, pen, paper, pencil, dice. That's all you need to start.
Oh yeah, to start with, that, like you said, that is all you need. If you want to experiment with it, or if you run a first one and you enjoy it and you want to keep going as a new DM, there's no harm in doing that, in trying it. Like, don't let it stop you, kind of thing. Yeah. But don't feel obliged.
And don't feel like once you've set the, like, you know, I mean, unless you say from the beginning, we're gonna have this every session. That's on you. Yeah. But arguably, you could start with nothing, and by the end of the campaign, you're creating entire tables worth of set pieces. Yeah. Players are going to love that, but don't feel like you need to. It's just nice that you're improving your own confidence in being a DM.
It's like in our campaign, in your Black Shores one. So one session, you'll get out a massive cart miniature, we'll have a big battle map or something, you'll draw it on in detail, and then the next session, when we get into combat, like I said, we won't even have miniatures, we won't have a board, it'll just be rolling for it. So you can, even if you do it sometimes, you don't have to stick to that.
Yeah, it's really dependent, and it's kind of what we want in the pacing. If the session's long and there's a lot of lore, a lot of dialogue, lots of things to do, but there happens to be combat, and that's not necessarily important, it will happen, then you don't want the whole session to become combat. So sometimes it's nice to just have rolls, you know? It's working out the pacing and what feels right. And you'll learn that over time.
Yeah. Okay, final question.
Hello.
Hello. Any final words for our first time homebrew campaign DMers?
Yeah, the biggest thing, and we just kind of briefly touched on it, we always say just have fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, pacing I think is everything. Sometimes I can write 11 pages for you guys and it takes one session, 3-hour session. Sometimes I'll write 4 pages and it will take 6 hours, 2 sessions.
Yeah.
So it is so dependent, and you can't, it's really hard to get that right. But it also depends on you working out a structure. So, you know, pacing is everything.
Yeah, I'd say always, especially if you create a homebrew world, it does not need to be that detailed where you can say every little thing about it. If it is, perfect. But have enough knowledge of where you want it to go, what you want to get out of this world, that if players do speedrun a little bit by accident, or just that's how it happens, you can keep it going. You don't have to cut a session halfway through and be like, oh, sorry guys, I've not planned any of this, I don't know where you're going. Because that in itself, even if players don't mind it, you need them to have confidence in you as a DM, I think.
Yeah, I think a really important thing is, you know, if it was a module that people have heard of before, they kind of know what to expect, even if they've not played it. But with this, it's your own thing. So as long as you then keep backing that up, that, all right, you came to this forest that I wasn't planning for, I've now put it in, then that forest should be a part of the world ongoing. So, and people don't know that map. People, because only you have made it and they don't know it yet. So you've got an advantage there that you can change things on the fly.
Yeah.
But as long as you stick with it, and then, you know, the next session you go, no, it didn't. That didn't work. That didn't happen. You know, you've now, that place exists now, and so you should make the most of it.
Yeah. Unless that then turns into another mini quest where people have been manipulating the minds or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
But anyway,
yes.
That unfortunately means that today's adventure is sadly coming to a close, but we are back again next week with the topic. I've just read that. There are 34,000 pubs in the UK, so why can't I find my dad in any of them?
That was for me. I'm sorry. Well, it was originally, I wrote this for me.
Because he's dead. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and if you'd like to join in on the D&D action, then please follow us on Instagram and TikTok at How to Play D&D, or check out the link in our bio to join our Discord server. And for BTS of sessions, bloopers, blogs, early access to episodes, and even live Q&As, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/howtoplaydnd.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
And again, I'm reading this after you've written it. I've been Connor Kinsey.
I've been Lewis McCaffery.
Good day.
Good day.